verdict in the trial of the former president of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak, is expected this morning. Mubarak and his Interior Minister Habib al-Adi face charges of killing protesters during the 2011 revolution in the country. He had been sentenced to life in prison on the same charges in 2012, but that was overturned on appeal. Well, since May this year, he's been in a military hospital after being sentenced to 3 years in jail for embezzling public funds. Let's speak to Nabila Ramdani now then, who's a Middle East journalist and a commentator. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I suppose what people perhaps might be hoping to see this morning and what might actually happen are two very different things. What are we expecting, Nabila?
Well, clearly this is a massive day for Egypt. Remember, Mubarak is somebody who ruled the country for 30 years, so anybody over the age of around 5 is going to have memories of him in power. And if you're under 30, he's a person who's pretty much dominated your life as an Egyptian. And Mubarak is now 86, and yet he has been involved in this almost ridiculous legal process, which has changed in its nature over and over again. And his trial effectively began a few months after a popular uprising ousted him from power in 2011. And it has to be said that it is a rarity to see a former autocrat facing charges for alleged crimes committed during his rule. And that's why it's often referred to as the trial of the century in Egypt. Now, as you said, to go to the actual specifics of the trial Mubarak is facing, it is actually another retrial for both manslaughter and corruption charges. And in 2011, there was, of course, a huge amount of idealism behind his prosecution. And we can remember when Tahrir Square was the epicenter of the Arab Spring, and everybody was cheering for peace, justice, and most of all, democracy. But it has to be said that the mood in Egypt is now one of pessimism about a possible conviction for Mubarak and his associates. And even in case Mubarak is convicted, he can reappeal. So this saga truly is like a never-ending piece of Egyptian drama.
Yeah, and you say people are feeling fairly sort of pessimistic in the country. We saw yesterday clashes between Islamist protesters and police in Cairo. Presumably, whatever the outcome might be later on this morning, is the country poised, do you think, for more violence?
Well, yes, indeed. I mean, precisely because a lot of Egyptians actually believe that this is a show trial more than anything else, and we're bound to see Mubarak being wheeled into court wearing his trademark sunglasses. And even if Mubarak is, acquitted, I mean, he wouldn't be released because he's serving a 3-year sentence in a corruption case. But critics of Mubarak's regime are already, or him as a person as well, are clearly already saying that it won't be enough, as Mubarak is being held in a military prison as opposed to a regular prison, and he's well looked after by men who share his military background. But as you said, I mean, this trial is also taking place in the context of a tense weekend for Egypt, with ultra-conservative Salafists calling for an Islamic revolution to end military rule and to maintain the country's Islamic identity. Supporters of Mohamed Morsi, who was Egypt's first free freely elected president, who was overthrown by the military in July last year, have also called for fresh weekend of demonstration. So, there is bound to be the juxtaposition of these events is likely to spark more violence.
Nabila, thank you very much. We're just running out of time, but thank you so much for your time this morning. Nabila Ramdani there.